Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be taking a look into the tropics here. We got Tropic Storm Gamma. We also have Invest 92L, which has a pretty high chance of developing, and this actually may have a threat to the United States here as well. We'll be talking about both of these systems. We also do have a couple areas to watch here. This one here looks like it has a pretty much has no chance of developing at this time here, so we're not really worried about this system. Now, before I get started with both of these here, I want to shortly talk about this one right here, Disturbance number 3, which has got a very low chance of developing in the next 48 hours and 5 days. However, what's crazy about this system here, this is the same remain low from Polute. And Polute, the remains of this system right here, has been around for nearly a month, so it's quite amazing to see the remains of Polute still sticking around in the Atlantic. It's developed right around here, traveled this way, and went nearby Bermuda as Category 1 or Category 2 hurricane, moved to the northeast, died down into a remain low, moved south, became a tropical storm, went to the east, made a U-turn, and now it's all the way to here. So that's crazy how long this same remain low has been around for a very long time now. So I just want to go in and mention about that this disturbance here, but for right now it's got a pretty low end chance of developing. But let's get a little bit serious. Let's talk about these two systems. We're going to start off with Tropical Storm Gamma, which has winds of 60 miles an hour. We actually did have hurricane warnings in effect for portions of Mexico yesterday. I don't think this quite reached hurricane strength, I don't believe, but it got very close. But now it's died down to a tropical storm with 60-mile-an-hour winds with a minimal pressure of 997 millibars. So far, this has no threat to the United States at this time here. And let's go ahead and click on this one here with Gamma. And let's take a look into the warning cone. And as you can see here, it's going to be moving to the southwest and to the southwestern portions of the Gulf of Mexico. There's a It may die out in the southwestern Gulf. It's a little bit far out, but we'll see about that. Gamma may stick around for quite some time in the southwestern Gulf, but we're going to see what it's going to do next after that because we're not quite sure about that. Let's take a look into some models here. Gamma's looking quite organized, but it's going to be running into some strong wind shear and also as well as some dry air, which we'll take a look into the GFS model of that. Now, ignore these models here. I believe what's going on here is these models here may be thinking that Invest 92L, which will come up into the Gulf of Mexico, they think it's the same system as Gamma, but it's actually not. So ignore these models here. It's likely to be continuing on the southwestern track here and probably stay stationary in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. So just to keep in mind of that. Here's the GFS Salmos has the same issue with that here. So again, just ignore the members here that go to the north. It should stay in the southwestern Gulf for a while. So just to keep in mind of that. But here's the intensity guidance. Most models do keep it into a tropical storm, although I think it will die down back into a tropical depression. Since it kind of stays stationary over some of the warm waters, but it'll also die itself because it'll lose ocean heat content and also as well as those very warm sea surface temperatures, so it'll likely cool down quite a bit whenever it stays stationary. So I think it'll die out at some point in the southwestern Gulf, but cannot really quite say that right now because who knows? It may do something different next, but we just don't really know about that just yet. And here's what I'm talking about, the strong wind shear here, which will talk about both systems in the wind shear and also the precipitable water in the atmosphere. And as you can see here, the red colors means there is some very strong wind shear, which is not good for tropical systems. It will shred them apart. Now, areas that don't, kind of the light blues, maybe greens, areas that's favorable for tropical systems that's also not a strong wind shear and maybe not even any color at all. So, but as we kind of continue here, you can see here, it actually kind of dies itself out. But it seems like wind shear may lift just a little bit, and then maybe the remains get sucked into Invest 92L, which is right here. And this system here may have a pretty good advantage with the wind shear because as you can see here, it's quite weak in that region. But maybe before landfall, the Xer makes landfall probably look it to be from the GFS near New Orleans. It'll hit some strong wind shear at landfall, but that can likely change. And let's take a look at the precipitable water. Your brown colors, that's your dry air. Your green colors, that's moisture in the atmosphere. You can see here it hits some dry air, but with some of the remains there, can make Invest 92L have a pretty decent advantage. You can see here, nearly the entire Gulf has moisture with it. And you can see then it starts to make landfall into maybe somewhere in that region there. But this is definitely something we're going to watch for. And let's kind of look into some other things here. Like, let's go back here. Let's talk about Invest 92L. So it's southeast of Jamaica right now. It's got a broad area circulation. It's got 80% chance in the next 48 hours, in the next 5 days. And I think this will likely develop into a tropical system. I think it's very likely at this time here. So, where is this thing going to go? Is the biggest question. Well, you've seen the GFS model solution. Let's take a look to some other solutions like the hurricane models. Let's take a look at the tracks here. Now, the hurricane model's been doing a pretty good job on the tracks. You can see here, pretty good agreement it's going to be making landfall somewhere in southeastern Louisiana or southern Mississippi. Now, keep in mind, this is 5 to 6 days out at landfall, so it can likely change, so it will shift around some more. We'll likely see that happening, but that's looking to be the general agreement at this point here. But two other models do keep it onto a northwesterly track here towards southeastern Texas, but that's looking to be the unlikely solution because nearing the same time, there's going to be a big trough that could be moving into the central United States very soon. And we'll be talking about it into a different video there. But with the same time with that big trough here, it's likely going to turn this thing here eventually to the northeast. So I don't think it's going to be moving to Texas. It's going to probably be moving in somewhere between Louisiana, maybe even into Florida as well. But we just don't really quite know where the exact pinpoint of where it's going to make landfall. But the general area at this point here is looking to be southeastern Louisiana and southern Mississippi. But there is some good news here. But let me go and tell you guys what the good news is. I need to pull it up real quick. And what it is your sea surface temperatures. Let's take a look to the ocean analysis here. If we zoom in to the Gulf of Mexico here, you can see here where those greens are showing. That's like here's your bar here, or legend. You can see here, look at those green colors. That's actually turning below average sea surface temperatures, which is some good news. This is after, Sally that went through into some of those regions, and also those cold fronts that have been coming through with all that troughing in the eastern United States over the past about a week or two. And that's leading to some slightly below average sea surface temperatures along the Gulf Coast states. So we won't see this thing rapidly intensify before landfall. However, it may rapidly intensify where some of these higher numbers are. Now, favorable, you know, tropical development, favorable for tropical systems would be areas in the red and orange colors. But the green colors, that's unfavorable for tropical systems. So this thing actually may die down some before landfall, which is some good news there. And that's, you know, on that. But we got extremely warm sea surface temperatures, 30 degrees Celsius. That's in Fahrenheit, that's in the 80s for sea surface temperatures in the northwestern Caribbean. That's actually why gamma rapidly developed because of these very warm sea surface temperatures. Also, very strong ocean heat content. That's really going to help these storms here rapidly intensify, which I think that could potentially happen with this system as well, Invest 92L, which will become Tropical Storm Delta very soon here. So just to keep in mind of that. But let's go back into the hurricane models. Now, here's the tracks again, bringing into southeastern Louisiana, stuff like that. Even the GFS ensembles are bringing it into southeastern Louisiana as well. At least it means some models are bringing it into where Laura made landfall, which is kind of a concern. But for right now, that's an unlikely solution. Although it could shift that way, that's a possibility, depending on that trough that'll be moving into the central United States around the same time. But here's the intensity guidance. Now, the worst case scenario is it rapidly intensifies into maybe a Category 2 hurricane. Now, keep in mind, the HWFI model and I don't know if like this model's on here, but there's two models out there that has a forecasted rapidly intensify, but also die down a little bit before landfall as well. Those models actually nailed some of the past tropical systems, so we definitely need to watch it very closely. You can actually see one of those models that have been doing a pretty good job, which is this one right here. You can see it had rapidly intensifies to a low end Category 2. Then whenever it hits those waters there, you can see it dies down into a Category 1 hurricane. Then when it makes landfall, bam, it just goes downhill. And that probably the most accurate model out of the other ones in this graphic here. So yeah, on that. So I would probably follow this model here for right now. That's like to be the most accurate model at this point here, which I do have a forecast as well showing it. But let's take a look into the European model. So you got Tropical Storm Gamma. This is FS92L, which will likely become Delta there. That's next on the list. And as you can see here, you see the remains of Gamma kind of moves around in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. You can see here, it just sticks around there. Here comes Delta. Now, I think this is underdoing the intensity of Delta, but you can also see here, before landfall, it dies down. So I think that's probably pretty accurate, but at the same time, here comes a trough that'll be moving in right up here. So you can see here, here's your trough kind of starting to move in right there. And then eventually this system here will start to move to the northeast. And you also got a ridge of high pressure around the same time. If we look to the GFS, there's a pretty good agreement on that as well. Let's take a look into the winds with the GFS model here. And it seems like to be its strongest is a little bit close to landfall. Tropical storm, 50 plus mile an hour winds, sustained winds. Could be a little bit underdone, but you can see the European models a little bit further to the west, so we may need to watch that very closely here to watch those trends. Yeah, here comes this major trough. A huge system starts to move in, and that'll be for a different video, and that could be quite nasty as well. You can see GFS even agrees with it as well, so, but again, we'll save that for a different video. All right, so here's my forecast for Invest 92L, or you could say, Delta here. You can see its position right now, southeast Jamaica. By 4 o'clock Monday, should pass Jamaica. I think it'll still be a tropical depression or Invest around that point, but then when it gets into close to Cuba, at least the northwestern portions of Cuba, it'll start to maybe rapidly intensify. Tropical storm winds, 45 miles an hour. That'll be by 4 o'clock on Tuesday. Then 4 o'clock on Wednesday, it'll be a tropical storm with 60-mile-an-hour winds. Now, I think its max strength is going to be a Category 1 hurricane with 75-mile-an-hour winds at 4 o'clock by Thursday. But then at landfall, close to landfall, somewhere around there, 4 o'clock on Friday, probably make landfall as a tropical storm with 65-mile-an-hour winds. So like I said, it'll likely die down before landfall, which is some really good news there. It won't be like Laura. Uh, it'll, I highly doubt it would be like Laura, but either way, the good news is it'll die down before landfall there as well. And keep in mind, this forecast will likely shift around. It will change some, so don't be surprised if this forecast does shift around depending on the what models are going to show. But for right now, this is the forecast here. It's unofficial. This is not the National Hurricane Center's forecast. Just my forecasted thoughts here on the system here. But anybody that's really anywhere from central Louisiana into, the Alabama coast lines there, do need to watch Inves 92L closely because it may affect your weather here very soon later this week. But anyways, guys, this is all for you guys today. Hope you guys did enjoy this tropical update. If you guys would like this tropical update, hit the like button. If you really do like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, you can put a comment section down below. I'll answer you guys' questions. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.